Pope hosting a historic conference on marriage and its role in society at the Vatican last week. The event drew over 300 figures from 23 nations and 14 different religions. And while some expected the Pope's modern views to soften his stance on marriage, our next guest says that was not the case. Tony Perkins is the president of the Family Research Council. He was at the conference in Rome, and he joins us this morning from Baton Rouge. Tony, thanks for coming on.
Good morning, Tucker. How you doing?
Really well. And this is an interesting story. So the Pope has been watched very carefully, not just because he's Pope, but because he seems to have new and modern ideas about certain things. Are his views on marriage changing? Have they changed from what you could tell?
No, I don't think so at all. I think that's why the Vatican hosted this conference, as you mentioned, of 14 different religions, probably 250 folks that were there, religious leaders. And the Pope was very clear on this, that children have a right to grow up in a home with a father and a mother. And so I think this Pope is saying, look, marriage, and this was the complementarity of man and woman was the name of this conference. The Pope's very clear on this issue, but recognizing that all humans have dignity. And I think that's the message from this Pope.
Yes. So in the United States, the numbers are really depressing and getting worse. We're moving toward 50% of kids being born out of wedlock, and the consequences are poverty, among many, many others. What can we as a society do? What can the Catholic Church do? What can you all do to encourage people to get married before they have kids?
You know, that's a great question, Tucker, and that's how I actually got involved in public policy, this whole marriage issue, back when I was in office 20 years ago, or about 15 years ago. I authored the nation's first covenant marriage law, and that was the focus of this conference, was marriage and family are in crisis. And that's not just an American problem. It's a global problem. And so we have a responsibility to do something to give the best possible environment for children to grow up in, and that's a mom and a dad. And it's not just for the child, it's for the benefit of the couples, the mother and the father, the man and the woman, and society, those three elements. And that goes back to the early teachings of the church. What was very interesting about this, Tucker, was that this is not just an issue for the church. Now, 14 different religions, Taoism, Jainism, all these different religions that don't have any theological elements in common, but they have a common understanding of what marriage is, because it's rooted in nature. It's rooted in the order of creation.
Of course.
And so the call was to religious leaders to lead out on this and to uphold that standard, that ideal of marriage, even though we may fall short from time to time.
Right. Well, exactly. It's the basis of all civilization. Thanks for reminding us of that. Tony Perkins, appreciate your coming on this morning with news from the Vatican. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Tucker.
Coming up.